Those who play with the devil's toys will be brought by degrees to wield his sword. Buckminster Fuller. Welcome back to Xcom, everyone. It has been a while, quite a while in fact, and this is a different view from normal of Mission Control. I guess that makes sense. It's quite fitting, in fact, a different view for a different war. Oh, well, rather, it's not so much a different war, but it's the same war with different elements. This is, of course, Xcom Enemy Within, the latest expansion for Xcom. I would like to start by saying a massive thank you to the viewer who donated this to me. Some idle morning I woke up and I found I had been gifted this on Steam. I'm not going to name them because I'm not certain they would feel comfortable with that, but suffice it to say, you have my most profound and sincere gratitude for this. I am going to enjoy this mightily, and I hope you all enjoy it with me. Now, this is a quick tutorial video. I'm not going to really be doing any gameplay here. I want to just cover the game setup, so the options that I'm going to be playing with, and also a few other things like how I'm going to be dealing with naming troops. Again, obviously, I'm going to be naming them after people who request troops, but we'll get into that in a few moments. First and foremost, let's look at the options we're going to be playing with. Now, I am, of course, going to be going with Classic. Well, I say of course. I'm sure a few of you have assumed I'm going to be playing Impossible. I know one or two of you have asked me to. Now, I did consider it, but when I loaded up the game and I saw this, I decided against it. If this was just the expansion, having already completed Classic difficulty, Blind Ironman, I would have gone for Impossible. But I really want to play with these, and I feel that they're going to change the game enough that I'm not at all confident in my ability to complete the game on Ironman with Impossible, and I don't feel like playing it outside of Ironman. So, let's have a quick look at these options, these second wave options. I haven't played with any of the second wave options that were unlocked when I completed the first game, and I think these are slightly different anyway, but we're going to check out exactly what we're going to be playing with. First, aiming angles. Units receive an aim bonus the closer they are to flanking an enemy. So it's going to remove the cover mechanic where you were either in cover, half cover, or you weren't in any cover at all. And they had very static effects on how well you could aim. This will mean that there is still going to be tactical value in getting just to the side. Even if it doesn't bring them out of cover, it will just improve your shot a little bit. So we're going to be definitely going with that. Save scum. Pointless in an Ironman game, and honestly, I wouldn't use save scumming anyway. Training roulette. Each soldier's training tree will be mostly randomly generated. This doesn't apply to mech troopers. Now, just to get something out of the way, I have seen someone let's playing the beginning of the game, Revoking, as it happens. He has quite a lot of footage on his Twitch TV channel, and he is still streaming it actively. I've not watched much of the recent streams because they're getting into later parts of the game, and I would like to try and preserve some of the surprises that the expansion has to offer. By all means, if you're interested, go check out his Twitch TV stream. There's quite a lot of footage there, as I said. But the reason I bring that up is with mech troopers. They are one of the new units that are going to come in. I know what a mech trooper is, and I can guess how this would not be so good with their specific training options. But in regards to normal soldiers who have regular classes, what I imagine this is going to do is just randomize it up. So you might have lightning reflexes on, I don't know, say a support or something like that. But I doubt when it says mostly randomly generated, what I imagine is that things that are specific to a class, for example, Shredder rockets, given that the Heavy is the only class that carries a rocket launcher, wouldn't make sense for that to appear on anyone but a Heavy. So we are definitely going to take that. It's going to make for a bit more of an interesting playthrough, I think. Hidden potential and not created equally. This one means that rookies will have random starting stats, and hidden potential means that as they are promoted, their stats will increase randomly rather than along a set path. And I really like this. I feel that this harkens back to the original XCOM, where I don't believe it was guaranteed what would increase as someone got a rank. So with this in mind, it is going to mean that there's going to be the potential for some troops simply to be better than normal, and some, by equal measure, to be worse than normal. And I like the idea that we're going to have to try and work with that, or work around it, as the case may be. That we're going to have to try and nurture the soldiers who might not have the best stats to start out with, and try to get them early ranks so that they can start to overcome those weaknesses. I really like the idea that this is going to expand the experience with hiring people, because you're never going to know what you're going to get. Much like a box of chocolates. Now, new economy. The funding offered by individual council members is randomized. I imagine this would just change which council members can offer you the most money from the onset and things like that. And I'm not particularly interested in that. I'm going to be going without this for now, but by all means, if someone in the comments knows how this affects the game specifically, and if it doesn't affect it in the way that I've described, drop a comment in. I doubt I'm going to go back and start the game again to turn it back on, but that is what it is. Let's move on to damage roulette. Weapons have a much wider range of damage. Now, this one, I'm almost hesitant of turning on, but at the same time, I really want to see how this would affect the game. From what I imagine is that whereas previously a weapon was stated to have a certain damage value, and outside of, I think, hardened status preventing you from getting criticals and things like that, it would always do that much damage if it hits someone. Whereas with this, if a weapon can do 6 damage, it means it can do up to 6 damage. So it might do 1 damage if you're particularly unlucky. And I like that. That would certainly scupper my plans, but in a way it stops the combat feeling like a game of chess. I know the outcome of a battle. The only variable would be whether the shot can connect. But if it does connect, I know what it will do. So later on in the game, where you start seeing hit chances up in the high 80s or even sometimes hundreds, I think this would really, really make for a more interesting and sort of thrilling combat experience, because you never know. You can't tell that if you save this soldier to go last, you can guarantee to kill the thing that's bearing down on the rest of your troops, because you just might not do enough damage with that plasma sniper shot. So I'm going to turn that on. My hope is that it's also true for the aliens, otherwise this is going to be this is basically just a difficulty modifier putting me in a very, very unfortunate position. But I imagine it's true for the aliens as well, and I think this will really make the ground combat missions more interesting. So those are the settings that we're going to have on, and of course, we are going to be turning Ironman on. Much like the first game. Now, I did debate on this because of some of the problems I had with bugs in the first game, but at this point I feel that they've had enough time to sort any of the bugs out in the base engine, so my fingers are crossed that this won't cause any trouble. The tutorial I'm leaving off because, for the same reason I didn't record the tutorial the first time I played Enemy Unknown, it is heavily on rails. It is as on rails as anything could be without being a train or a roller coaster or a mine cart. It is pretty much glued to those rails. The problem with that is that it's about 20 minutes long, if not a little bit more. You have to listen to all that is said by the voiceovers. You have to go exactly where they tell you to go. If they say get to cover between point A and B, you can only go to the cover that they say to go to, even if there's better cover elsewhere. And I wouldn't want to force 20 minutes of watching exactly the same thing play out. If you've played the game yourself or even watched someone play through the tutorial, then this would be no different. The only difference that would be is my snarky comments at the terrible tactical decisions that were being forced on me by the tutorial. The meld tutorial, however, from what I've seen, isn't on rails. Or if it is, it wasn't as much so. And I feel that this will be important to introduce meld to us as we're playing through. The last option, well, Operation Progeny and Operation Slingshot, these are parts of the expansions, I think. So these will be turned on, and hopefully it'll be entertaining to go through. Now, reduce beginner voiceovers. This will prevent Dr. Valen, for example, telling me off for blowing up the first alien with a grenade because it got rid of the alien weapon fragments, or other things from Dr. Shen or Central Officer Bradford. We don't really need to hear them again, or at least I don't. If this is the first time that you've watched the game, you're not really missing much. I'll probably even relate the advice they would have given when I encounter that situation. But there you go. We've got Ironman, Mel Tutorial, Operation Progeny, Slingshot, Reduced Beginner Voice Acting. We've got Damage Roulette, Not Created Equally, Hidden Potential, Training Roulette, and Aiming Angles all turned on. Enjoy the show. And here we are at the soldier customization screen in the barracks. Now, first and foremost, I'm going to get the inevitable questions about, can you request a soldier? Yes, you can. But there are a few things I want to discuss before we get into that. Firstly, I have no control over the nationality, the gender, or the class of a soldier. These are all decided by the game randomly. The nationality and gender are decided when I hire them, and the class is decided when they get their first promotion. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that at the end of my previous XCOM Let's Play, there were still people who had requested names in the very first couple of episodes who by episode 81, when the Let's Play ended, had still not been renamed. The reason for that is that they had made such specific requests that I never had an opportunity to fulfill them. Now, you might think asking for someone of a certain nationality, or gender, or class wouldn't be that hard to fulfill, but it really is, because I have to keep buying troops and hoping that the random number god chaotically smiles upon us, and quite often he frowns. So what I would say is, by all means, you can request as specific a soldier as you want, but if it's too specific, the odds of you getting it fulfilled go down drastically. Gender is probably an easy one to specify because I'm going to have a lot of either gender. Classes, again, I'm generally going to have quite a few of each class, especially later on in the game. If you add those two together, then you are starting to get into difficult for me to fulfill territory. But if you add nationality to that as well, then, well, it really is up to Chaoticles whether you will see your namesake in the squad. What I would suggest is go with gender and leave it at that. If you really want someone of a certain nationality, I will do my best. But bear in mind, if a certain council member withdraws from the XCOM project, I will not get anyone from the countries that those council members were a part of. So that's another concern. So that out of the way, the less specific it is, the more likely I'm going to be able to get you into the Let's Play at all. If quickness aside, some people didn't get into it at all. So with all that said and done, I welcome you to go ahead and post comments on this video if you'd like to put your name forward for a soldier. If you're lucky, you might even show up in the first episode. But until the first episode, and as always, do take care.